Okay, all right. And then, moving on to the police and fire report, the fire marshal, who's that? Who do we use?
We use so we changed to Safe Belt, and we use Steve. What's his last name? So yeah, we use for the fire marshal. We use Safe Belt now.
Safe Belt.
Yeah, so we make sure that our fees for fire inspections cover the Safe Belt cost. But the reason why we went to the Safe Belt fire inspector is we found that person was much more experienced and had more credentials. And to be honest with you, one of my weekly reports I was going to write about some of the things that he's found throughout the city to improve upon.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who do we use before fire?
Public safety officers that we trained.
Oh, okay.
And they were good, but we thought we should probably get someone that's has a little more experience in it, just in case we're missing anything. And
yeah.
So
good. Yeah. So he's worked out rather well.
Yes, yeah, he's identified quite a few things that we've worked on making sure that they're corrected.
Good. Am I reading this wrong, Brian? In this report?
That's a future report, isn't it?
Below are this month's statistics. No, this is part of the consent agenda, so I'm on with the building.
I'm just on the finance part right now.
Oh, I can only go there?
Well, I was just going to pick it apart. I was going to go to
ahead.
Public safety next. Any questions about public safety?
I just asked mine.
Oh, sorry.
I
guess I just wanted to ask, when I read about the Woodward noise problem, and in your report that we have more legislative support on the state level?
Yeah, we do have some substantial legislative support, more than I've seen in the past. Representative Donnie Steele has been working with me and other communities, and she has put together some draft language that will really target modifications of vehicles, not so much the new construction, but vehicles that have been modified with the pop mufflers or the add-on parts, and finding ways to enforce more efficiently and easily laws on them to prevent them from being out there. At the same time, they're trying to come up with some solutions too, so if you do just have a loud muffler and you're going to work, you know it's your first time using it, but as long as you fix it, you'll get exempt from that fine.
Did she have the language that we provided that Dirk put together?
Yes,
she
does have that. She's seen that.
And are they using that as well?
They did use that. They had some concerns with the legal department they were working through, and it's in the legal department, and she hopes to move it to committee.
Okay.
I spoke to her last week about it herself.
Exciting, so we might have some progress with the noise problem on Woodward Avenue.
It's a slow progress. We've been working towards this for a year. I know it's slow, but we are making some.
Well, it sounds like they're getting to the root of the problem, and that is the noise making, as opposed to having to address the decimal level when you're on the street.
Yes.
Which is very difficult.
We're trying to make it so it's enforceable. Right now, one of our problems is there's laws out there, but a lot of the laws are made in a lab for the manufacturing of the vehicle, and things that are very controlled environment. Woodward isn't a controlled environment. There's a lot of ambient noise. There's other cars. You can't go out there and be just like one car and so many.
So it's hard to prove that they're the loud one.
So it's very difficult. So they're really targeting and trying to help us come up with a solution so we can enforce better on the cars that are actually causing the problems.
Great. Thank you very much. Did you already ask about the building report? Did you want to continue on that? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So, Brian, if I'm looking at this right, 2023 year-to-date residential permits issued were 45. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then I go to 2024 year-to-date permits issued are 39?
Yeah.
In 2.5 months? Or 2 months?
Yeah, that's what I had. I misunderstood that too.
Because year-to-date, or are you talking the 2024, this is year-to-date, are you talking
Well,
the
March.
fiscal
That's
year?
the fiscal year.
Fiscal.
Oh, from
This
last
June
June
until
until now.
Same time
Period,
right.
23 and 24. Same thing.
Okay, all right, so when I say that it's fiscal year, that probably should be changed.
Okay.
Fiscal year-to-date, okay. So we're down just a little bit on that one too, right?
Just a little bit.
Okay, and then on the commercial side, you're telling me that the fiscal year for 2024 was 8, right?
3. Oh, 8,
And it was,
3.
Is that a fiscal year or a calendar year?
yeah, this is really
I think it's a calendar
confusing.
year.
It's the
Calendar
same time period, so for the 2023 year-to-date, it is January and February. For the 2024 year-to-date, it's January and February just of those consecutive years.
Yeah. So fiscal would be July 1st, but, our fiscal year, but this
We're
is
comparing
calendar
similar time
year.
periods in the 2 different years, in the 2 different calendar years.
So
So,
does that mean the residential is 45 in the first 2 months and 39 in 2024 in the first 2 months of the year?
Yep,
Correct.
yes.
so it is year-to-date,
Oh, it's not fiscal.
But calendar year.
calendar year,
Yeah.
so
So January, February.
January and
Did that
February,
many applications.
yeah. In fact, January and February in a year, 2023, we had 45.
Yes.
Wow.
I have a New Year's resolution to remodel our.
That's pretty, I mean, is that usual?
Is that typical to have that many up front at the beginning of the year like that?
It
Spring
just all
projects.
depends. In one year, we got a flood of waterproofing. People's basements were flooding, so we had 35 basement waterproofing permits. So it just depends.
Oh, okay,
Oh, so it's all kinds of permits, not
yeah,
just.
not just building, yeah.
That's all building permits.
Okay. Any other questions on the building?
And then in the building,
How about the engineering report? Any questions regarding that?
I just wondering if we had any updates on Trowbridge from the suppliers, from the what was the name of the company? Highway Maintenance.
Highway Maintenance
Did
Company?
they get back to us on
They-
anything?
They did get back to us, I believe, I mean, the report was right, that they have to comply with, the current contract we have, and we're gonna start that in the spring. So probably, I don't know, a couple months, or another month or two.
Yeah, so we're enforcing the contract as written, plus the insurance, the warranties and the bonds. Now, some of it is wear and tear, which is different, and we're working through those issues, and we'll get a detailed schedule here, probably this month. But we weren't gonna go do it when the weather's going 70 one day, 30 the next, 20, it's, right? So we don't want it blistering hot either, so we looked at doing sometime in the spring when we know we're gonna have some steadier temperatures to do some of the patching and repairs.
And does the city have access to the chip seal to make the repairs when the city does the repairs?
Well, what we're planning on doing is, it really is like it's like a tar-based substance.
We have access to small parts, you're not gonna get a machine for
Right,
it,
so
but you're gonna get the small.
We're gonna rent a smaller machine that can do the patching, and the ground up limestone, we can acquire that, and we can acquire the emulsion or whatever we call it. We can
Is that
obtain
what chip
that.
seal is comprised of?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have to actually learn how to do that, but we're thinking about renting. It doesn't make sense to buy anything, but I think we can rent a machine to do some small areas so that we don't have to rely on this one contractor. The problem with this product is that there's not many contractors that do it, or not many people that are interested in doing it.
Birmingham may have a machine, so I'll call their DPW and see if we can.
Okay.
Because they have a lot more roads that do this than most, so I'll get you guys in touch with Jamie.
The plan I'm doing is getting the contractor back, correcting all the issues when the weather gets better, and then talk to them and learn about exactly how to use it. And if you can help out by talking to Birmingham, then we could, as other small issues pop up, we would just try to address them ourselves, so we didn't have to pay for them. That's the plan anyway.
That'd be great. Thank you. And Jamie, can I ask about the Chesterfield culvert rehab, you said it went out to bid. I think we asked, it was a couple companies.
We put it out on the street, and I don't think we've got those back yet. March 21st is the due date, so we'll know for the April meeting, we'll be on your agenda for you, hopefully award to a low responsible qualified bidder.
So I do have some good news on that. And I don't have the HR bill number with me, but we did, it was signed into law that we were awarded the community project funding grant through the Congressional Grants Division of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So sometime back, I dealt with Congresswoman Stevens, and she helped me in completing this grant, and we were awarded. So it's signed into law. So we will get up to $1 million to replace this Chesterfield. So it's going to affect our budget. Sanders says, "Good. Can I take it off the budget?" I said, "No, not yet. Let's try to figure this out first, because I don't know if there's reimbursement components in it, or I need for that federal agency that's going to be dispersing this to contact me and learn about all the rules. I've got the 23 guide and how it's all dispersed, but they told me do not rely on that. So probably in the next month or so, I'll learn more, and I'll let the commission know. But I mean, it almost seems too good to be true. I called them this morning after they sent me the email. They said it's signed into law, and there's an earmark for the city of Bloomfield Hills for this Chesterfield project. So the money should be there. Having said that, I think all the things that we're doing with it comply, but I'm not sure if there's something that, hey, this design portion of it isn't part of it. But
Does that mean we should replace it instead of
I know, I was just thinking the same thing.
fix it, the shell?
So we'll take a look. I just asked Sandra, because the bid package may not be compliant, because you might have to have prevailing wage rates, you may have to have certain things included in there, and or the design may not be. So before the 21st,
Okay.
we take bids. Let's do a little bit of work to make sure that bid,
Okay.
we can use it.
I literally got that phone call,
Yeah.
I talked to them this morning, so
Okay.
yeah, we'll
Congratulations, thank you for saying that.
How much? I thought we slated 500 for that.
We think it's going to
600?
cost $750, but I believe we'll have $1 million to use. So I hope we'll
I still think this is the right thing to do. Because you're still gonna spend $750 on top of the $1 million to do the full bridge replacement with all the road work and all the detouring and everything else. So I think this is still the right thing to do. But I also
aligning it.
Yeah, I still think lining is still the right thing to do, given the $1 million. But I want to make sure, because we've done a lot of these projects. This congressional directed spending has come through in a few things, and I just want to make sure that this bid is suitable and accurate, and we don't have to do it again. You know, so I'll look into that a little bit with you guys. Just tell me yeah. If I got to issue an addendum to make it legit, then I'll issue an addendum to make it good for the 21st, or I'll push it off a couple weeks to give us some time, because I would hate to get a good contractor and then not do the work and then have to rebid it. You're asking them to keep spending money, right? And so
Yeah, there are requirements and contract specifications. So
Are there certain companies you have to use?
No.
And send it out to contract?
no, we would put it on Mitten. And,
where it's at now, it's out for public bid.
Yes, so it's just out for the public.
Great.
Anybody can bid.
Okay.
So we'll work on that.
That is good news. Any day you get $1 million. Okay, meeting done.
We also have the minutes from the previous meeting before you. Are there any corrections or additions? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda for the February 13th, 2024 as presented?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Great, the consent agenda is approved. We will now open the floor for public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council, please step forward. State your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
That will be difficult for me. Steve Craig, 753 Sebago. Thank you for having me back. I guess you didn't have a choice, but I'm grateful for the time. I wanted to bring forward again my comment / proposal to consider modification to the ordinance relating to pool fences within the city. And I'm not sure the process of how to continue to move things forward. Thankfully, the city manager did reach out to me. We had some conversation. I provided some resources with some background to support my comments at the last meeting. But I wanted to see what the process was, if anything, for me or for another citizen to kind of bring that forward to the commission.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think it's great you came here today because it gets things rolling if there wants to be if there's going to be a conversation about it with the commission. But I did provide a report to the commission that I looked at other communities, and there are a few communities that just kind of go by the way of following the building code, but in the building code they defer to the pool and spa code, and I'm sorry I don't have it with me in front of me to I think it's the 2016 spa code and it's the 2012 building code. We haven't particularly adopted the pool and spa code. I don't know if that's an issue that we would have to do that because the building code, the 2012 building code, pretty much defers to them. But in Michigan, you can have pool covers without a fence, but there's specifics about that, specifics about the material. We did talk, and I appreciate that, and I wanted to find out some of his research, and he did send me some research that I've kind of looked at, and so I suppose I would ask the commission what you would like me to do next about this. I can review all that research and provide you more data, but essentially I think what you're going to find is I'm not necessarily sure I found that the covers are safer than fences, but they are certainly allowed within the city of Michigan.
But do we have a specific ordinance on the books that
We do.
requires a fence for a pool?
We do, so that would have to be changed.
So, Dirk,
It would have to be amended.
would we, but are we allowed to continue with our law
Yes.
to prohibit
Yes, yes, you can.
required?
I wonder if it makes sense to have this discussion when you have a full commission and the mayor present too.
Well, I think, would it make sense to have a subcommittee formed to review the research and present something at the next meeting?
Certainly, or,
That's a good idea.
I have no issues presenting something at the next meeting. I just wonder, again, if the mayor shouldn't be present is to be part of this discussion.
Well, he could be part of the subcommittee. If
Yeah.
everyone's comfortable with
I think
that.
we should,
I'm not.
are you familiar with when we have I don't want to say a big issue, but a change in an ordinance or something like that, we oftentimes create a subcommittee. And it's usually made up of 2 people from the commission. Dave is on it, and we usually do 2 people from the planning, right?
Only time we have a subcommittee for ordinances typically is for zoning.
That's
only.
For zoning?
And this
Oh.
wouldn't be a
For zoning.
zoning ordinance.
Don't we have an ordinance policy now in place for how we would change an ordinance?
Yeah, I
We have
thought we did.
procedures in place.
We do have a policy in place, and essentially what it is probably the best course of action here that would follow the policy is that maybe I provide a report to the commission with as much data as I can, and then the commission discusses it as a body,
Yes.
and then you direct the city attorney to either do something or not do something about it, create an ordinance, and then the city attorney this is the policy, and the city attorney presents it at the following meeting, and then you advise the city attorney to either modify it or not modify it, and then you vote on it. That is the policy.
I think.
So I could do a better job at putting all, I mean, you gave me some material, I read most of it,
Thank
but
you.
He's a busy man, sorry.
I could put it all together and provide the commission with all the data that he provided and what I found, and then it'll just be in a weekly report, and you guys can just read it and then discuss it. Is that okay?
Sure.
You're going to put it on the agenda to discuss for the next meeting.
Yeah, I could provide the report, and then we'll put it on the agenda. I can even provide the report. I can provide the report before the agenda so that you can read it, or I can put it in a packet as an agenda item. It's up to you.
Let me just volunteer this. I mean, this will be we've heard the topic now twice.
Yep.
I mean, I did speak to Brad about it, not that I'm gonna speak on his behalf. I think we're pretty aware of what the options are, what other communities do allow it, or give the alternative for one or the other. If you submit your, as you suggested, if there's going to be something you can circulate and we can review, we could probably get a lot of this resolved before the next meeting and then vote on it, as opposed to have another meeting to then discuss it again.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful with those
Yeah.
discussions though, because
Yeah.
They can't be,
you can't deliberate on an issue not in a public meeting. So you couldn't circulate emails amongst yourselves talking about the pros and the cons.
Yeah.
correct, but could we discuss it at the next meeting and vote on it at the next meeting?
You could.
You-
Well, he'd have to create an ordinance, we'd have to,
But we couldn't have the ordinance ready to
I,
vote
No.
on.
of course, we could do an ordinance by the next meeting, but I need to know what the ordinance is, what it's gonna look like. I mean,
I think it's important to discuss
I do
first,
too.
because, you know,
Yeah, it's unfortunate we
we
didn't
shouldn't,
have it
we're
on the
changing an
agenda.
ordinance,
It's a big
not,
deal,
it's a big
correct.
deal. I think it's something we should discuss and then direct Dirk to
I mean,
make
certainly,
changes.
once I'm given direction, I can absolutely have an ordinance ready for the next meeting. But
so I did provide, I believe, am I right, Amy? I think I did provide a report that already talked about this, and I think I believe in that report I asked
think you
the
did, yes.
city commission if you'd like to take, if you'd like any further action. So there is a report out that I provided. What I could do is just do some further analysis to see if there's anything else I can add. Put that in a weekly report. You'll have it. We'll bring this up at the April meeting when the full commission's here. You can discuss it, and then the policy, that would be following the policy, and then the policy would be direct the city attorney to create something, and then you have to have an ability as a full body to review it, and then you can vote on it.
Could we, as
So-
part of the package, have the current ordinance, or
Yes.
at least a reference to it, so we can read that, so
Yes.
that we understand what we're changing?
And maybe what other cities have in their ordinance?
You know, actually-
Some
What
of them
cities
don't have ordinances.
Actually, I
I think Franklin is the one that,
I think I had,
Yeah,
I'll look at the
And
report that I
Birmingham.
sent you, and if
think
if
Birmingham
it
as
has
well.
all those things, I'll
It
just
might.
recirculate it.
Yes.
right.
Okay?
It'd be interesting to hear if Grosse Pointe allows it and how many other neighborhoods in our area.
Essentially, what you're gonna find is that, unless they have a specific ordinance, which some people do, but not many, that it's allowed. So we have a
So
specific.
that's the default, because it's the state of Michigan.
Yes, it's like it's just like a building code. So whatever the building code is, in this case, it's a pool and spa code, that is what's allowed, unless you have an ordinance to the contrary, and we do.
so really, it might not even necessitate
Right,
drafting a new ordinance.
you just eliminate,
You just would have to repeal the existing ordinance.
yes.
If that's the direction that the commission decides.
Yeah, so you could quickly have it done in one meeting, if you decided that.
How long have do we know how long these jurisdictions that allow the cover in lieu of a
Since
fence?
2016?
I don't
have-
think those mechanisms have been that
Is there
reliable
history?
until then.
Is there history in terms of accidents that we could?
Well, the difficulty with that question is, we actually asked that question from some other communities, and they says, well, I mean, it's allowed in the code, and so we allow it. And so they weren't really, they didn't have data that there's an accident based
They
upon
don't
that.
have any data on it?
No,
one does?
they didn't have any data, like, let's say we allow a fence, we require a fence. And, if someone breached that fence and hurt themselves, we really wouldn't have the data on it.
Someone left the fence open or the door open, yeah.
But if someone drowned in the pool,
We could find out how many, we certainly could do that. We could find out how many drownings a community would have and how that happened. I'm not sure that's gonna be valuable, but it may or may not.
It just seems ironic that Birmingham's got a density issue that we don't have, yet they allow it. And we're presumably this community that's, rolling hills, and yet fences seem to be a topic. So I'm just trying
We're opposed to
I'm trying to
fencing.
get the mindset to change a little bit, that's all.
What's our liability, Dirk?
If you repeal the fence requirement,
Mhm.
there'd be none.
There'd be none.
No.
So people would just have a
It's the
hard
homeowner.
cover, the homeowner would be,
Right.
Liable
would be
for
for everything, even
keeping it
though we
closed.
change a ordinance.
We wouldn't be vulnerable anyway.
As I understand how that would all work, if you decided to repeal the specific fence ordinance you have, and there is another references to fences around pools in the zoning ordinance, section 24-242, but I think that could remain, because I think the Michigan Construction Code is gonna give you the option of a fence or a pool cover, as I understand.
Yeah, it does.
It's gotta be either or.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a fence if you don't have a cover. just can't have an open vessel in
Right.
the backyard.
Right,
And is it a certain cover you have to have, Brian?
I think
Well,
we'd
there-
specify it, yes.
Well, as long as it meets the, still the.
There's actually a organization that provides for the type of material that's used. It has to be a certain material.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Actually,
yeah.
that's some of the information that you sent me, so.
There's an ASTM standard, which is
Yeah.
this sort of standard mechanism, so certain manufacturers build these, well, really anyone that sells them builds them to meet this certain specification to make sure they're rated safely.
Great.
And just to add, because I know there's been a lot of conversation about it, thank you all. I noticed on the zoning and the planning commission agendas, approximately, on the planning commission specifically, about 50% of your 4-hour-long meeting related to fences. And so,
Yeah.
for the board as well as for the citizens and the team that's here, I mean, that's a long day to talk about something that most people don't want anyway. And we have this viable alternative that's safe. So I'll leave you with that.
That's why the meeting is long, is because we're trying to help them come to a conclusion of less fencing, but, yeah, exactly.
This is one way.
This is one way, so thank you very much. for bringing-
Yeah, thank you for bringing it to,
Suggestion.
we'll make sure it's on the agenda and we address it, okay?
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Okay, the commission will now consider the acceptance of the 2023 annual reports from the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I think there's
One more public comment.
Yeah, we have one more.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Please come up and let us know your name. And
Sure, my name is Annette LeBaron, and I'm a resident of Bloomfield Hills. What I'm here today is I want to make you guys aware of a ballot initiative that's coming forward potentially November of 2024. And there's a group of people that are collecting signatures, and this initiative is called Citizens for Local Choice. And I'm sure some of you might have heard about it. And what this is in the state legislator at the end of 2023 agreed that we would be at 100% renewable energy by the year 2040. And in order to do that, we need to have solar farms, we need to have wind turbines, and then some energy collection devices placed around the state. And there's a group of grassroots people that got together, made up of Republicans, Democrats, Independents, environmentalists. And the reason they come together is because a part of this act, there was something called the Public Act 233, which was signed into law to fast track some of these programs. So to fast track, by fast tracking, what they're doing is they're bypassing local zoning boards. And now they're gonna be going to the Michigan Public Service Commission to get approval to build these things. Now, do I think we're gonna get a solar panel farm in Bloomfield Hills? Probably not. You need about 1,500 acres. Do I think we're gonna get a turbine? Probably not. But, will we get one of these collection devices? I don't know. Do we have extra?
can I ask what a collection device is?
Well, it's like, or energy storage, like the
Oh,
energy storage. I mean,
From the
From
wind
the
turbine.
Correct,
Okay.
from the turbines or whatever. But I do think it's possible that it could happen somewhere in northern Oakland, in the northern part of Oakland County. There's a lot more area up there. But what my real concern is we're taking away the rights of local zoning boards, we're taking away the rights of citizens to voice their concerns, and I think that zoning boards and the citizens should have a right to say what will and will not be built and where it will be built. So I'm a volunteer for Citizens for Local Choice. I'm collecting signatures. I'm handing out, petitions to anybody that wants to collect and talk to their neighbors. I'm happy, if Amy or the city wants to give my name and number to anybody to learn more or have me come speak to somebody about it. But I'm passionate from the standpoint that I think citizens should have a voice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Leave your petition and information with Amy, and we'll.
Sure.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the audience like to? Forgive me. Sorry. Thank you for speaking. The Commission will now consider the acceptance of the 2023 annual reports from Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. Are there any questions regarding these?
Just, the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board have both reviewed and approved these.
Correct.
They're good with it.
Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion to accept the annual reports.
I move that we accept the 2023 annual reports from the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals as presented to us at tonight's meeting.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Thank you. The commission will now hear the city manager's comments. Dave?
Thank you. Well, the grant was the biggest news, so I already talked about that. Pool covers also was on my list here, so I'm glad we talked about that. Salt Dome, I did provide a report to the commission. I'm not sure if it might have been last week. So I provided my weekly report about the damage to the salt dome that we have. It's kind of a strange, I guess, partnership. We have a salt dome building that we own. It's on Cranbrook property. And I was able to find an agreement back in 2008, which expired in 2009. It essentially talked about how we share the salt. And so the reason that I found out about this is I went down to the salt dome to take a look. Yes, sir.
Share the salt or share the dome?
Share the salt in the dome.
I thought we owned the dome.
We do own the dome, and Cranbrook uses a certain amount of salt, which they tell our DPW foreman how much they use, and then we charge them for it. But there's not a real good understanding of that. So we buy the salt through a contract, and we get a contract every year, state bid, and we purchase the salt, and then a portion of that, probably about a quarter of what they use probably about a quarter of what we order. And we order a certain amount of tons, they use a certain amount of tons. They have a backhoe loader, we have a backhoe loader, we have a backhoe loader that we rent, we lease, it's a lease to own.
Yeah.
Over a 4-year period, and it sits down there and kind of, it goes through salt and kind of gets, there's nowhere to store it down there, and it kind of gets damaged. It's one of the reasons why we have to keep. And so I actually talked to Jamie Burton about the salt dome and the history of it. He pulled up some records and how we reviewed this back in, I think, maybe 2006, and potentially having a salt dome, not a dome necessarily, but a salt building a small building to hold our own salt at DPW. I believe there's room at DPW to do this, that we could screen it appropriately with trees and everything. I just think it's a good idea, in my opinion, to have our own salt dome on our own property with our own equipment and our own salt.
Mm-hmm.
I did contact Cranbrook's Chief Administrative Officer, Rod Sperring. I think you mayors know that. No,
I know Ron.
And he
hasn't retired? I thought
he's leaving in the summer.
Oh.
So he's had they've had some difficulty with personnel, but he's leaving this summer. But he says, listen, it's if you want to move the salt building off our property, I'm fine with that. If you want to enter into an agreement that we build another salt dome and we share it. So I guess the question is, it probably would be a little bit less money if we built it with Cranbrook and put it on their property, but it's just sort of a strange situation. And I feel like the right thing to do is to have our own salt dome if it's done appropriately. I actually had one of Jamie's architects kind of look where they could put it and give me some ideas about it, and I wanted to bring your attention to get some direction, because I don't really know what the city commission feels about this situation. Do you feel like, well, we've had this good, this relationship for so many years, should we continue with that relationship, or we have to build another building, or do you think it's time for us to go on our own?
Would Cranbrook still buy our salt from us, or would they
No,
get their own salt?
They would have to have their own. They get their own.
They'd use their own building and their own salt and their own loader, right?
Is it inconvenient for you to use theirs and have to go over there to fill your?
So I did talk to the DPW foreman about that, and I said, would it be better for you if the salt building was here? He says, well, it would be, because this is where our trucks are. And I said, well, how many times do you fill the trucks? During a regular snowstorm, when they fill the truck, they can go through the whole city with that truck, whatever route that truck is. And so it's not like they would have to keep returning. And so he believes that it would be better. He's always felt that it would be better at DPW. But there's the two, there's a couple of issues of the building there, how do we screen it, and, and the expense of it. But one of the concerns I've had when I was looking at this backhoe is that it gets used by other people that aren't city employees.
Oh, so.
And I don't like that, because we've had so what started all this is that we've had some repairs with it.
Mm.
I said, well, who broke this? Because we should have some documentation of there's an accident or something that breaks, unless it's just something that wears out. We should probably document that you can learn from it. That is it some way we use it wrong, or do we need some training? And so there's really no good way for us to identify at times who did it, because
Can't you take the keys, or they just?
well, we can, but there's a code in there that everybody uses, and so I did actually have them move it up to we're not going to be using salt anymore, so I had to move it to DPW for now. But it's just one of those things. There's a list of things that I think it's better to have it at DPW, but I want to find out what the commission thought.
We're leasing the backhoe,
We are.
Yeah,
so
we
we've got probably obligations under the lease with respect to loaning it to other people.
No, because it's a piece of equipment that we can do what we want with it.
Yeah.
But what my thought is we can. So then I looked at how long do these things last? How many hours do they last? And so we have 1,000 hours on this machine. We have one more year on the lease, but they last 12,000 hours. Then I said, well, how many hours do you guys use it? Can we calculate that? And about a third of it, he believes Cranbrook uses it. So if we had our machine that we bought, and it's going to be bought and paid for, it's a good machine. We had it at DPW, and we stored it inside the garage because we have room for it. Now we can power wash it. We can keep it clean.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to need another backhoe for years if we treat it right.
The same one?
Well, we spend $12,000 to $15,000 on a lease to own every year. But let's say we had $3,000 worth of repair. Well, that's quite a bit of savings, and I think we could probably realize something like that. So I think it's the right thing to do, but the commission back in 2006, their opinion was, well, yeah, we're okay with that, but you're going to have to build it to look exactly like a certain way. And the cost of it was a lot. It was like $150,000.
Oh.
I think we can kind of get around that by using a lot of landscaping and big.
Were you
large.
thinking of putting it on the?
So just outside the gate of DPW.
Outside before you go into the gate there.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of
Across
cut
from
it.
the Hunt Club.
Yes.
Yeah.
And kind of cut it into the hill, but really screen it. It would do a couple things. It would, if we actually did really screen it, when you're driving south on Kensington, it would block the view of looking in DPW, I think. So there would be some value
that would be
to
good
that.
too. Yeah.
So when you buy salt for the season, you buy it in bulk, right, before?
Yeah, we buy it, it's price per ton, and we have to buy, we have to commit to buying at least 70% of what we say we're gonna buy.
And so then you have enough to then hold 70% of that amount for the season, of your use?
So so the current,
Under the current situation, can you take 70% of your use and put it in that facility at Cranbrook?
No, because the facility in Cranbrook is about 400 to 500 tons, and we probably use about 1,200 or 1,300 tons a year. We commit to about 2,000 or something like that tons to get this price, and then that's
So
how it
our
works.
salt will be a little more expensive because we're not.
And the backhoe is then used for the season, which is, call it December to
Yeah,
April
well, it's used for
1st?
that. We do use it for other things, but it is exposed to that salt environment and the outside weather because we can't really leave it at DPW and then drive it down there when a snowstorm when we need it. So we really need to leave it there for
right.
months outside. They don't have a They don't have a storage facility there now. I asked them initially, can you because they have like a power washing. Can you wash it off? But I don't know how. The salt really damages it. It's unbelievable.
Right.
So we wouldn't continue to invest in the same backhoe, would we? And keep that one here?
I think we have another year. Well, so our last payment is that's coming up to December, and that backhoe is a good backhoe. Yeah, loader is a great machine, and I think if we did this, that would actually allow us to not enter into another
Then we
lease
own it.
agreement.
You
Then
said
we
it
own
was a
it.
lease to own. Okay,
Right.
so we own it then.
Right. And so there will be some maintenance costs. You know, I started looking at the maintenance records. It's a little expensive. It could cost $1,200 for them to come out and kind of go over it and go through things. But it's not gonna cost us 12 to 15, might be $15,000 coming up, and we're spending it every year. Was it the best thing to do to lease it, to own, because then we turn it back in? I think it was. But in this case, I think we can lease to own it and then actually keep it for a few years, 3, 4, 5 years. And maybe that money can be used to build a salt shed.
So, I noticed that, it's funny you talk about this, because I noticed that if you look at our report here, it talks about.
27,000, yeah, I
Yeah,
looked at it, yeah.
it's looking at it, you can see when we purchased the salt. I mean, I personally think Cranbrook is great, we have a great relationship and everything with them, but I think it's probably time that we had our own salt in our DPW department, and we have our machine, and I was thinking the same thing, if we had it there, we could put that machine inside that building,
Yes.
which is really impressive, if you guys ever walk over there, they have these big trucks and everything, it's really impressive. Put it in there, that way it's out of the elements, and we're kind of controlling our own property and our own investment, and I think it's probably best we do that.
Well, I guess I'm confused. You're saying that the truck, the front loader we have right now is, though it's outside, it's in good shape?
It is in good shape.
So it doesn't seem to make sense that we need storage then if it's
Oh,
one in
well-
good shape.
Well, no,
what
he's
I mean-
saying,
What I mean by good
It'll be
shape
in better
is.
shape if it's inside for the
Right,
remainder
but I
of
guess
its life.
the only component I'm thinking about is there are cards where you can activate a machine on and off. Cranbrook has a card, we have a card, and it would record the hours, and then you could bill it accordingly. That's how you
Yeah,
could.
but there's billing accordingly, and there's damage that someone causes. I'm more worried about the damage that someone would cause.
Actually, that can even be monitored too.
well, what he was saying about it is that there's really no, when it is damaged, there's no proof of who did the damage.
No, actually there is. There's electronics
Because
on.
their card is used.
Right,
and
their
then-
cards, if they hit something and it shuts down, they shut it down, then the service tech comes out and you know who did it.
The problem with that, though, and certainly not to be argumentative, but the problem with that is sometimes the wear and tear occurs before the machine starts acting up.
No, that's a maintenance thing, and I get it. I don't know, I guess, I don't wanna belabor this, but it's,
Yeah.
you've got one party participating in the expense, and the
They
other
have their own
example, we would
backhoe, by
take
the
it on
way,
ourselves.
so you know, they have their own backhoe, by the way.
Then why would they even charge ours?
Because theirs breaks down and then they use ours.
Or it's pushing snow piles around,
Yeah,
or it's out doing snow removal.
Or it's out doing snow removals on Cranbrook.
Yeah.
Do they
Yeah.
use ours to do that too?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Well, you know, so right now they don't use it at all because I didn't know that they used it. But when I went down there to check to kind of look at it, I asked about the hours and how that worked. Then all of a sudden, they do use it at times, and so it just made me think about this bigger picture. And I guess that's when I'm bringing up the bigger picture.
Well, and Cranbrook seems agreeable for us to take everything and move.
And the relationship to me is important. And so
Yeah.
it's the first thing not one of the first. The next day I call Rod because
Your ordinance.
Woodward noise.
That's your ordinance at work.
Go on, chief.
Yeah, but he's amenable to.
They're okay with it.
They're
us
fine.
to
He
break
understands. He understands that if we want to enter into some sort of agreement, he'd have to work with his board.
Is it a
Well,
problem
he-
because he's retiring?
Is-
You want to separate the relationship because this guy's
Oh, no, it has
retiring?
nothing to do with it.
Okay.
No, it really only has to do with, I think that, we have salt that we buy. We should use our own salt and not worry about billing somebody for the salt they may or may not be using. That's one component of it. I think it's strange that a building that building is probably built in the late '60s, early '70s, is our building on their property. That's kind of strange.
Did we buy it from them, or did
No.
we build
We
it?
built it.
there?
We built it.
We built it.
Yeah. And then I think it's, the salts would be at where we need it most.
Yeah.
Is another component. And then add on top of that, maybe we can extend the life of the machine that we buy, that we habitually lease every 4 years. Because we lease to own it, then we turn it back in to get a good turn-in value, and then we lease another one.
Well, Dirk, what's our liability too with them? They're not city employees.
No, I don't love the arrangement.
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
This liability, that's my
From a
biggest
liability
thing.
standpoint, it's not a great idea what
No.
we're doing.
Yeah, I think I would vote, my direction would be that you look into what the cost would be to do it at the DPW. We take control over it and.
Can you get us a cost?
Yeah.
estimate of
I'll
the building
get you a
new-
plan kind of, and where it would be and the cost, and, I'd like to use some sort of like a cement block, nice
Mhm.
looking at
Yeah.
cement block on the outside, make it simple. And then have a covering over top of that, and we can, that top part, we can make it look like, DPW, but we can screen most of it, so you won't really see it, I think.
That's
it's-
fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go in that
All
direction.
right, then that's what I'll do.
Thank you for
Alright.
bringing that to us.
Any other issues?
No, that,
Any updates on the tent ordinance? We tried to,
so I did talk, to Bill Danaher about it. He was really concerned about, using that tent as he has before. To be honest with you, I tried to talk with him and try to reduce the amount of time, about 90 days or something, and he wasn't very happy
how about
with that.
9 days?
Yeah, 9 days.
Yeah, I don't know why he thinks he's so entitled.
Well, I mean, all I know is that he uses it for his parish and for meetings and.
They just built all this extra meeting space and extra, if the neighbors are upset about it, I think we need to move forward with some kind of tent ordinance.
He did say one thing that I thought was kind of valuable. He said, "Is there specific people that are that complain about it?" So I thought, I've never talked to anybody that complained about it. Maybe I should try to talk to them and
Sure.
work it out.
Can I give them the
Yeah,
number?
because I could find out. Maybe there's specific things that they don't like, and maybe I can go. The difficulty I think that we're having from an administrative standpoint is. You have some complainants, and then you have a parish that uses this thing. How much of that community, that people in the parish are from the community that use this and that I like it.
Actually,
And then-
the two people I talked to are members of the parish.
Are they really?
And they're
Okay.
big donors, so I don't know.
Then and then trying to work it out. I actually brought a proposal to Dirk and I said, can we separate this tent and say that for residential use, we would go through this, 3 times a year, 5 days. Then maybe we could take institutional use, maybe with Cranbrook schools and this.
No, these neighbors are upset about that particular tent. They
Right.
want that tent.
But you can't.
You can't target it. In fact, we can't even separate it the way Dave suggested.
Right.
Okay, so he didn't like that. Well, yes, sir.
I guess I'd be reluctant to create an ordinance for one offender. So there's gotta be another
I
way
agree,
to
but
do
I don't
it.
think we should allow big tents to be put up and stay up the entire
No, so
summer.
I don't agree with, I agree with that.
And they think they're entitled because they did it once and they don't wanna answer to the neighbors. I don't
So-
think that's right either.
So I think there must be is there another lever as opposed to creating an ordinance?
The other lever is communication between the complainants and the church. I think that's the other lever.
If they're big
Dave has
donors.
had some initial conversations with the church that have not proved fruitful so far, but the other component, I don't think Dave even knows who the complainants are, but knowing that might be helpful to have some.
I could
further-
try that approach, but to be honest, to answer your question, the problem is, we do have a school, one property, Cranbrook's educational community, that probably gets about 30 tents a year. And so if we do create an ordinance, it's
Yeah,
gonna.
but they don't keep them up for 90 days. They apply to the
They-
regular,
they
for the
don't, but-
weekend, for,
So what if you call it a temporary structure ordinance?
It's a distinction without a difference. If it's targeting a particular use and that use is religious in nature, then RLUIPA applies.
no, I'm not targeting a specific use. I'm targeting the entire length of use, the number of days of use. If they want to put one up just for, every weekend for 3 days and get a permit, And they
That's-
can do that
that's-
3 times on the weekends?
That's
then-
what we
That's the
created
ordinance
though.
that's the ordinance that we proposed,
But
was exactly that.
If you apply it, you could really be broad about it and let them do as many times they want. That could be a way to do it, but what we created was, we kinda talked about it and we thought, well, how many times would people normally put tents up? Maybe 5 times a year, or maybe 3 times a year, at 5 days each. So if you create something like that, then that applies to everybody. That's the problem with it.
But that's fine. I don't know that Cranbrook leaves a tent up. They do it for graduation weekend, they do it for Lax Jam.
But they have weddings too, where they put tents.
For
I mean,
the
if you-
weekend.
But if you
For the
limit the
weekend.
number of tents that you can have, the number of times, I mean,
I
that's.
think the concern is more 5 days max and
Any amount of times you want, 5 days max?
With no restriction on.
I mean, Cranbrook can easily, they have so many divisions of their school. They can say the middle school is applying, they can say the high school is applying, they can say the boys' school, they can say the church, they can say the.
But according to Dirk, it's one property.
One property. It's
Oh, so different divisions couldn't.
No.
to try to carve it out. I mean, if you're gonna do this and it's going to pass for loop of mustard, it's gotta be across the board.
Oh, I agree. I just don't think it's right. Someone can erect this huge tent and leave it all summer.
I guess the $1 million question is the cure worse than the disease? So you really have to decide is.
But isn't there some kind of motion or ordinance that can prevent a tent from being put up and staying up for
Yes.
more than 5 days?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we created, was exactly what you're referring to.
So why was that one a problem? I thought,
It was a problem because I think I'm doing it from memory, I think it was 5 times a year.
Yeah, 3 times a year, 5 days in length each
And
time,
Cranbrook does
so.
it 31 times apparently, I think they have 30 maybe.
okay, well then
So Cranbrook would have to scale
make
it
the church have to take it down every 5 days.
Well, we can create an ordinance, whatever you want, I'm just letting you know what the
I mean, have them
difficulty
take
is.
it down during the week I don't know. I just think
It
what
is.
they're doing is egregious, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's a
recognize.
structure.
Yeah, I recognize your frustration, but we're going to great lengths to create a ordinance for an offender.
Yeah, but they're abusing,
No, I'm not denying
their ability to
that
put a
issue.
tent.
I'm just,
One of the
do we
things-
want to create an ordinance for one
No,
person?
I just wonder if there's a way to.
I would suggest 2 things, and one, I think Dave has done, but maybe not. We could let the father know that the city commission is considering adopting an ordinance, and see if that softens his stance any. Or in the alternative, we could talk to the complainants and find out exactly what their specific concerns are, and then talk to the father. Because, again, the ordinance is gonna have a lot of collateral effects that I think people don't realize, but you have to do it that way. And this, it comes back to, is the cure worse than the disease? I guess that's the
Right,
best
I don't
way to say
I don't
it.
necessarily insist on having an ordinance, I just would like to find a way to make the church not, keep their tent up all summer.
I agree, and it's not just a couple people. I mean, I've had people in passing always stop and go, why is that tent always up? It's not, and the thing with Cranbrook, I guess I understand about Cranbrook, but the thing with Cranbrook is, you're right, they put a tent, they put those tents up for weddings. They're up on a Thursday, they're down on Monday, and it's beautiful on Lone Pine. That church tent is up all summer long, that white thing is. So, and there's other people that just say they find it, they don't like it. They ask how can they have it up? So why can't we do it for
I suppose what you could do right now, I think it was, how many times, Dave?
Well, you could.
You could make it 20 times, but 3 days.
Yeah, you could do that. You could have an unlimited amount of times put up, but the maximum
3 days
amount
at
of
a
time
time.
could be 5 days. So or whatever.
And there
3
must
days at a
be
time.
so many days you must have it down so many days in
You
between.
could do something
But
like
what
that.
about weddings? I mean, we don't want to prevent Cranbrook from having weddings on their grounds if they're
That
having.
wouldn't though. I
they're
mean,
up and down. They're up and.
But if you
I've
limit the
seen them
duration
up
And down, but we don't want to limit the number of
That's why we're doing
tense.
unlimited.
Yeah, I
Unlimited,
try
okay.
to craft something that, something that's up for a long period of time, like over 30 days, would have to be brought to the commission for approval, but it's just not, it didn't, you know.
I just wonder if before we do that, we should talk to the father and suggest to him that, look, commission's considering an ordinance, and here's what we're talking about right now, and this is what the impact to you as well as everybody else would be. Because that would take away any rhubarb.
I did not tell him that we were looking at an ordinance, I just wanted to talk with him without any, aggression, I just wanted.
Well, I don't want any aggression toward the church by
Right.
any means. I just, I
He would
think
most likely come.
they
and
don't,
talk
I don't
to me.
think they either understand that what they're doing is concerning to other people, so.
So I guess I could talk to, if you.
We should address the concerned parties. That's the first.
We will.
That's the
I'll
first
ask
thing.
them to call you and if you can talk to the father.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, and also, do we have our budget meetings dates resolved for our commission?
We're still waiting for one more response, but from what we have, so far, the only date available is April 25th. So as long as,
So we're waiting on Brad? I didn't see him on the,
I didn't see Brad either. I didn't even see his name though.
his name won't appear until he responds, but he was on the email.
Oh, so like when I went
Oh,
in,
right.
when I went in on Monday, I
You had to put
apologize,
your
I
name
was
in.
out for a week. I had to put my name in and then it popped up.
got it.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So the first meeting will be, after the city commission in April.
Mm.
And then it looks like the second will be April 25th, but we should wait for the mayor to make that determination. So as soon as he replies, I'll send out that information.
Great,
Mhm.
thank you so much. That's a cool, great little app.
Yeah, where did you find that? Good
Well, you said you
job.
wanted something social, so I knew about the doodle thing, so.
That's really clever, thank you. Does
Yeah.
anyone else have any issues they'd like to bring up? Great. If there's no further business, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
City council meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 9th, with the budget meeting following. Thank you.
Thank you.